Thank you, Paul. I'll now call Max Kep to present on what he's been working on with in PNG. Max is a member of the Logohu, which is similar to the MBE in PNG. He has received the National Award for Services to Urbanisation last year by the Governor-General of PNG, has an economics degree with honours from University of PNG and postgraduate diploma from University of Manchester in UK. He has held the positions of Director, Labour Economics International Relation for the Employers Federation of PNG, Chairman of Industrial Arbitration and Minimum Wages in the late 90s to early 2000s, currently the Chairman of National Consultative Committee on Urbanisation, and the Chairman of National Consultative Committee on Informal Economy for PNG, and the Executive Director for the Office of Urbanisation for PNG from 2003 to date. Thank you, Max. I was going so well. It worked the first time. There you go, Max.
Thank you, Sonia, and ladies and gentlemen. I'm privileged to come before this audience to talk about what we are doing to address urban issues in Papua New Guinea. I think the setting was right. Somebody talked about the world scene when measuring Melbourne against the rest of the world, how their city is doing and the statistics. Then we had the Commonwealth, and then we come down to the Pacific situation presented by Paul Jones, Dr. Paul Jones. In fact, he took out the good part of all the presentations that I was going to do. So maybe I was left with the empty shell. Let me just see if there's anything good in here. Okay, first, I think this is about the state of Commonwealth cities. There are some contrast with some of the cities that we are talking about. For example, in Australia, you're talking about the national urban policy, whereas in some of our countries like Papua New Guinea, we talk about urbanization of the country and urbanization of cities. And you talk about 80% already in cities. We're talking about only 20% or so in cities. Then you have cities which have been there for a very long time, 200 years maybe, and plus. And whereas we are talking about recent cities which have emerged in the last 50 years. Then we have big cities which are almost independent. And then we have dependent cities, like in our smaller countries. And we have urban reality, which is already accepted in Australia and other places, whereas in our places, we are trying to drive home that urban is a reality. So we're still trying to grapple with how we convince politicians and people who make the difference. And, you know, the minister who just made the presentation today at the media conference, I was envious because we like ministers like that who will understand, fully appreciate what the urban is all about, and they can speak on our behalf. This is the sort of difference. And then we have talking about improvement and sustainability. It means that you already have cities, whereas we are talking about getting it right in the first place. So this is, I think, some important contrast that we have to understand and where we are coming from. My purpose here is, hopefully, I share some of the PNG experience. A lot of it already, Dr. Jones presented it. And to share a conviction that urbanization is the link to improving quality of life in PNG. And that is by identifying the issues and the challenges. And then we believe that we can change it by deliberate policy and program. Urbanization is not just urban development per se. In PNG, we are trying to transform a whole society, a way of life, from a rural-based population to one which is modern and which is different, culturally, the way of living, everything. That's the urban population change since 1966, our first census, up to now. We are saying that urban population is increasing rapidly and is likely to continue in that trend. Some more images of urbanization in PNG. The figures were already given by Dr. Jones. We believe that by 2010, we have close to 1 million and plus this year. Main urban growths are in urban, peri-urban areas, and by 2020, we should have more than 1.2 million people. The message we want to give to our leaders, in the political and bureaucratic arena, is that urbanization is not something that will go away. It's here to stay, and whether we like it or not, positive, negative, everything we did will be here, and we have to deal with that. The issues that we identified is that we have rapid movement of people from rural to urban areas, and the urban local level authorities are unable to keep up providing the services they need. Then we have urban poverty. People come into towns and cities, but there's no employment. So it creates urban poor because they don't have the regular income to meet their needs. Then we have pollution and congestion, and also the effects of climate change. Urban land issues. Land is not owned by state. State only owns 3%. So where do you build your cities? On the urban periphery is owned by customary landowners. And customary landowners who have given their land no longer wants to part their land. So you have a problem, growing cities on the same amount of land. And with the urban housing issues, we have serious housing shortages. Dr. Paul said a lot of our people are having to resort to living in squatter settlements. And then the homelessness, social dimensions, prostitution, drug use, unemployment are also serious issues. Infrastructure and service provision, sewage, water, power, all these things are in short supply. Institutional and governance issues are also serious issues. So what we try to do is identify those challenges and issues, and then try to put them into 9 cross-sectoral themes: population and employment, transport infrastructure, urban environment, climate change, housing and social issues, urban development, urban land availability, urban security, law and order, institutional and governance. So this became part of a policy that was completed, as mentioned by Dr. Jones. So in a nutshell, analysis, the policy urbanization analyzes the trends and challenges, and then we decide what are the key issues and challenges posed by urbanization. And for those key issues and challenges, we develop a strategy so that we can systematically address these issues. Then it was mentioned that policy has to be evidence-based. So how do we get the evidence? So while developing the policy, we've done a couple of pilot projects which are still going on so that we get the lessons that we learned from there and incorporate it into the policy. So, reducing what might be a very complex situation to try and make it practical and implementable and understandable by everybody who are going to implement. We are saying that in this policy we don't ask for too many things. We just say, let's provide and get the basics right. Provide primary and trunk infrastructure, which are expensive things for private sector, which are also outdated because population has outgrown current infrastructure. So government should be determined to put in major infrastructure for water, sewage, power, all these things. Then we say, if housing is very difficult, well, we get the land right. Land which is serviced, where there is power, where there is water, where there is sewage. So there should be a land development program by the government so that land is available. The first problem is that there's no land where people can build. They might have the money, but there's no service land. So the second component of the policy we are asking is that there should be a serious effort to land development. The third is that if people are coming into town, it's because in the rural areas, they're probably missing urban services. So why don't we develop rural urban areas, rural urban centers, so that people can get urban services from the rural areas, close to them, where the population are. Then for the urbanization policy, or for urban to be managed properly, we need a program of capacity building for urban local level authorities, their officials, their leaders, their councillors. So capacity building for urban local level authorities as well as government officers is important. Then we should be talking about planned approach to modernization development. So planning is very important. So we should have urban development policies, plans and programs in place which is coordinated. The whole idea of having a national approach to addressing cities for PNG is that we want a sustainable urbanization and we want to maximize the benefits that urbanization brings to the country and the community, so that it is maximized between communities, within communities as well. So what it means for us, PNG, urbanization is civilization, and civilization is modern, and modern is service delivery efficient. So cities, we believe, can deliver services more efficiently. And urbanization can be harnessed. Like you saw in the slides that has been presented, it is not harnessed properly. It is in chaotic situation. So the central theme in every presentation we make is that if countries like Malaysia and Singapore can urbanize quite rapidly in the last few decades, then we can. Anybody can. And if you can bring all your population together, you can deliver your services like education, health, housing, water, all of that properly, other than trying to deliver these services to isolated communities that spread around over 47 million hectares of land. The likes, yeah, for PNG, we have a far greater and more daunting challenge ahead when those who matter don't really see, including donors, including our politicians, who still believe that the rural is the way and want to provide rural services, who still believe that health, education, law and order, they keep talking in those languages, forgetting that urbanization is here, urbanization is the future, and that's where the people are, and we need to address that. Otherwise, all of our efforts will become futile and useless. Unmanaged urbanization equals chaos, and anarchy is also equal to failed service delivery. So we want to advocate that urbanization must be managed through deliberate policy and program. And as you have seen, the sad story is that PNG urbanization is in chaos and anarchy on our doorstep. If we have well-managed service centers, we can provide holistic services close to people, close to population catchment areas, such as banking, information, health, education, all the other things. Overcrowding is it's a fact that even those of us who have formal housing, 10 people, where you are supposed to have only 3 people with a family, maybe a couple of kids, 3-bedroom house, trying to accommodate 10 people is a reality. Increase in poverty is a reality. Health, HIV/AIDS, sanitation, sewage, and then the increased push-outs in schools and hospitals is because more people are coming in, limited space in hospitals and schools. Some people have to be pushed out, including customary landowners who are rightly supposed to have these services. And the mushrooming of settlements, as was presented, increased marginalization of indigenous people who've already lost land by giving their prime land to previous colonial governments. And then the issues of congestion, pollution, increased law and order. These are some of the issues that can overwhelm and put our country under serious pressure if we do not seriously address the issue of urbanization. Best description, chaos, mayhem, and anarchy. The opposite we need is order, peace, and harmony to replace chaos, mayhem, and anarchy before we even talk about sustainability and resilience. If you already have a city, it's already in good working order, you can talk about sustainability of what's already there and resilience to what problems and challenges that come face with it.